Welcome to episode 51 of Enter the Mind podcast, the most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind. Today, we're going to be talking about letting go of things when you love them to see if they come back and return to you. Before we get to that, Kyra, how's it going this week?
Going as well as it can be. Kyra is not in the best position right now, but she's making the most of it. And boy, is she fucking wrangling up all the fruits of this hard time. She's doing good. How about you?
What a superb mindset. Totally. It's, yeah. Every struggle to me is like an opportunity. It's like going to the gym and it's like you can't lift that weight, or it's hard to lift that weight. And that's not a sign of anything bad. It's a sign that like you're about to get strong enough through your training to very soon lift that weight. So that's kind of how I felt about my day yesterday. It was a bit challenging, but in the end, I realized it's every struggle is a call to growth. So in any case, you want to talk about this concept of letting go. So give us a bit of context so we can jump off into discussion here.
Yeah, I'd love to. So a friend and I that I met in Bali like 2 years ago, we were talking about our men at the moment. And she was talking about how she's with this guy and he's totally cool and like he's really spiritual, so like they have a great connection, but like he's kind of playing mind games with her and it's really annoying. So I told her, I was like, he told you no sex and you shot back at him with like, no sex, what do you mean? Like, why are you playing mind games with me? And I get that. Like, I completely get that. Like, fucking me, no sex. Come on now, right? But then, we were talking, and as we were talking, we decided that, she should let that go. Like, let it go. Go along with him. Go along with him. You may want this sex so bad, and you may want something with him more and for him to open his feelings, but you got to let it go. So let it go, play along with him and say, okay, like no sex. Fine. Totally agreed. Let's just hang out. Let him go. And if he brightens up at the thought of you not, nagging him or being needy with him, then he'll, maybe he'll straighten up, he'll perk up, and he'll see an opportunity for him to show you somebody who's self-controlling and can take care of her own self, etc. will come back. And it's the same situation with me. There is a man that I absolutely adore, love him to death as a human, love his existence in this world. He's amazing, but we never ever talk, ever. And I'm fine with that, but I realized that something that I've done with this man since I've met him was let him go. And every single time I let him go, he comes back. He may not come back when I want him to come back, but he comes back. And I love that. I love that so much because seriously, if you let something go and it continues to come back for you, then it wants you. It's for you. It's for your soul. And I don't have any exact examples, I guess, regarding like some things like inanimate objects yet, but those are the two that just really got me thinking about how good it is to let something go and have it come back. And I'm talking a bit much, but I want to add this one more time. Sometimes, if you let something go, in order to let it go, and it keeps on coming back, but you don't want it to come back, then, it's like a completely different story. It's like, let something go, and if it comes back, it's yours. Nah, bitch, you ain't mine. Get the fuck out of here, because I don't want you, right? But if you let something go that you actually really want, that's something that you love, if you just let it go and it comes back to you, then it was always yours. And I think that I can relate to that a lot in, I guess, like my whole journey through spirituality. So I'm going to leave it there and see what thoughts have come up in your mind.
Kind of reminds me of concept of a power struggle, which I encountered like over the years working in psychology, with my various clients. And I mostly spent my time working the front lines of intensive mental health. So it's pretty severe mental illness. I mean, there's a very wide range of mental health out there, but at the most severe end, and that's where I worked. And power struggle would be, for instance, if the client didn't want to take medications, but they kind of needed it for severe mental health. Like I'm talking about people with delusions, like hallucination, schizophrenia, right? And then you might get into this argument. One response is like you start arguing with them and try to convince them like, no, you need this. You've been telling me, you're hearing voices, you need to take this medication. You're just pushing. Whereas you could easily just take the opposite approach and be like, oh, you don't want to take them? All right, well then I'll ask you later or something, right? Or be like, okay, next, like next in line, who else wants to take them, right? And if you take that approach, the funny thing is that client will easily come back to you and be like, actually, I changed my mind, I'll take them. But it's that lack of, you didn't get into that, the power struggle with them. And I don't know, that's kind of what I thought of when you're talking about your friend and her boyfriend saying no sex. And she's like, she could either be like, okay, no problem, and go with it, like no resistance, like a Taoist principle almost of non-resistance, versus like fighting or pushing it, So that was kind of what I thought of. Very different example, but I feel like the structure, the energy of it is identical, right?
It's completely identical. And as usual, in the beginning, I had no idea where you were going, but then you laid it on me, of course. So yeah, that's definitely like the whole part of it. And it's like, I'm trying to think of like a time where it's like with your dreams, it's like for like a long time. I don't know if you saw my story on Instagram yesterday or anybody listening did, but I had a beautiful experience with my pussy. And for so long, I've been wanting to connect with my womanhood, with, this beautiful thing between my legs. And I wanted it so bad. I saw other people like having like the time of their life during sex and like loving themselves and loving their pussy. And I never had that, right? So for a while, I had to let it go because I was focused on so many other things and I didn't really have the time or the mind capacity to go inside and actually learn to love myself in my womanhood. And, finally, when you let something go, all of a sudden something pops up and you're like, hey, I think that this is kind of important to me. So let me look into this. And you say, oh my God, it's time. It came back to me. And I just feel like the whole concept of like letting go and least resistance is really like the best thing to do. And I'm trying to think of an experience to where maybe like a friend got me angry and I'm just kind of like, okay, and then they come back, or a time with like a guy where I'm like, leave me alone. And then all of a sudden they seem to respect me more because I, something. I feel like my mind is all in a twist right now, but tell me what's on your mind.
What's on my mind? It's just how bluntly you talk about your sexuality with no hesitation. 100% bluntness. But it's all good. Yeah, I did see something about that post you made about, was that Layla Martin stuff, right? Is she the one about like getting in touch with your sexuality, something? Yeah,
she's actually like amazing. And she has stuff for men too. For you or our men listeners on here, she's absolutely like, she's in essence, she's amazing.
Is she like a sexologist or sex coach or something?
Yeah, she's like a sex coach. She's all about pussy in general. Like she just talks about like pussy. like all the time. Like she loves her pussy, and she talks about taking the word pussy back and how it's been used like to call a male or somebody else like a pussy, right? Because they're
Right.
weak. But like our vaginas aren't weak, you know. It's like it's the language barrier and stuff. So she helps women take that word back, and then she helps like men and women just learn how to, you know, have amazing sex and be okay with, excuse me, your sexuality. So she's totally awesome.
I got it.
I have another example of, I guess, sort of like letting a dream go. And just like, it's like letting something go and working towards it, but being okay with whatever decision happens. And I feel like that's a lot with my body as well. Like, you know, like I said in maybe the last or the episode before that, I was working so hard on my body, so hard. And I was getting angry. I was so mad. So I let it go. I genuinely said to myself, like, Kyra, if you wind up fat, fuck it. If you wind up with the body you want, great. You know, like, let's just work towards it, let it go. And if it happens, it happens. And then boom, bam, I weighed myself on the scale and look, it's here. You know, so it's like, sometimes you just have to let it all fucking go. Just work towards what you want, let it go. And if it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, then in that meantime, you'll probably be okay with the outcome if it doesn't, because you've done so much work on your inner self that you're like, I don't actually need what I thought I wanted so bad.
I think what it makes me think of is like monitoring your energy expenditures, because when you do oppose something or resist it, you have to ask like, what am I doing with my energy here? Or like, where am I investing my energy? Or it becomes clear that you're investing energy and not getting anywhere when you start to look at it that way. And this concept of letting go, to me, is like choosing to protect your energy almost, or it's almost like conserving your energy. So like letting go to me is like it's like an energy saving strategy. You see what I mean?
I definitely 100% do, because I'm thinking about, so it's like, I think that letting go has to do with almost caring, but not caring. And it's like, so it's like, it's like that moment where it's like, I am 100% okay with myself, and I will always be 100% okay with myself. So it's like, some of the relationships that I have with men are so fucking good because I don't give a fuck about them. I don't give a fuck about you. Like, if you're being a piece of shit or you're an arrogant asshole, I'm gonna look you in your eyes. I'm gonna be like, you're being a fucking arrogant asshole. How do you like that? You know? And then they'll be like, yeah, well, you're being a whiny bitch. And I'm like, maybe I am, you know? And it's like, all of a sudden, when you just don't fucking care, it almost brings you two closer. It brings you two closer because it's that push and that pull of, I don't need you. And when you feel like somebody needs you, automatically you want to run the fuck away. Like, this is not a good thing. So if that can happen with people, then obviously it can happen with objects, goals, dreams. You know, it's like, if you're just so fucking afraid to lose something, how are you so afraid to lose something? That's life. We lose things all the time. And if you don't, if you spend your whole life scared of losing something, you wind up becoming something that you're not. And chances are you're going to become really unhappy because, number one, you're not expressing anything of your true soul expression. And number two, you're just so worried about what everyone's going to say to you. So, you know, you kind of, you attach on. And it's like, sometimes you just got to let go and tell your friend that they're being an arrogant son of a prick. You know, and then they'll be like, you know what? Well, last week you were a son of a bitch. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me sooner? So I think that it brings people and goals and dreams a lot closer when you just don't care.
I think the question that raises for me is, in regards to the value of being direct with people and sort of saying things, like just kind of speaking freely rather than just holding in your thoughts. What, again, what's happening at the level of energy there? It's when you're direct and you kind of get something off your chest and you just say it. There's no longer an energy consumption involved in holding on to it, because if you keep it on your chest or you hold it in and don't say it, it takes energy to do that. And it's funny because I've been in meetings where I like kind of want to say something and I don't, for various reasons. Sometimes there's a good reason, right? But the more that you hold that in, like I'll get to the end of the meeting and I haven't said a word, but I'm extremely exhausted because the entire meeting I was using up my energy, holding back from saying something that I wanted to say, right? And so again, I feel like there's two layers to life. There's what's happening on the surface, and then there's what's happening at the level of energy. And so something that looks like maybe it's not taking up energy, it really is. If you enter the mind, name of our podcast, and look at where is the energy flowing, almost like a sewer system. Like people don't realize, like underneath the ground, under the streets, there's like these sewers with the water flowing and the water pipes. Like, how do you think water comes out of your faucet when you turn on your faucet in the kitchen? Well, it's because it's flowing in the pipes constantly, but we're not really aware of that. So there's this constant flow of energy beneath our awareness when we involve ourselves in everyday situations with other people, with but there's this, that to me is the most interesting thing. It's like that flow of energy that's beneath the surface.
I think that's 100% true. And I love that you turned it into the sewer, like the whole kind of like sewer thing, the water that comes out of your faucet. Cause it's like, if your pipes ain't good, water's going to come out brown, bro. It's going to be all of that excess energy that's never been released and it's getting moldy. And then it just comes out like green in spurts and you're wondering why your waters ain't working. It's because the pipes is wrong. You gotta check them bitches. And the reason I think that, well, not the reason, but I think that this is pertinent to what you're saying with the holding of energy, the energy expenditure, right? Did I say it right? Okay. So I'm watching this show, The Vampire Diaries, and I swear on everything I love, I am obsessed with one of the characters and the other ones too, but one of the characters is a complete dick. He's a complete asshole. But you know what? He always says what's on his fucking mind. Always. And all of the other characters are so witty. And I swear, like, they're all still friends. They all still care about each other and would do something to save one another, even though all of the harsh and beautiful things that they've said to each other. And I'm so inspired by it because it's like, he opens the door to somebody, and it's a guy that I guess kind of looks like he sells Bibles. And the guy opens the door, he looks at him, he goes, "We're all good on Bibles, thanks," and slams the door in his face. And I was like, oh my God, it's the ruthlessness that somebody has within them to see the realness in somebody. And if you can see the reality of something and still be okay with it, then it's okay. There's another character, and she's kind of judgy. Her name's Caroline, and she's this perky blonde, and she's just like, "You're gonna kill," because it's the Vampire Diaries, and she's like, "You're gonna kill all these people, blah blah blah." And then the other character is like, "Yeah, somebody told me that you're kind of judgy," so it's like she knows that she's judgy And her friends are allowed to say that she's judgy, and she knows it. So she's allowed to laugh it off. You know, it's like being okay with letting go and just telling somebody like it is. I just feel like it clears up so much excess energy, and it clears up all that shit inside of you to be able to look at somebody and be like, this is what I see. And for me to be like, okay, it's true, because I know myself. I'm not going to deny it. I know myself. Do you still want to be friends? Yes? Great. Let's do it. Energy gone.
Yeah, definitely. It's there's two concepts I'm writing down.
Okay.
I think it definitely relates to our past conversations on excess potential, which is the concept from Vadim Zeland's book, Reality Transurfing, where you're seeking to avoid inflations of energy or attributing excessive importance. And that's what happens when, like, for instance, yeah, you're clinging on to somebody too much, and you're attributing too much importance. And you're exactly right what you said, like that causes the other person to go away, like, or to try to run away. It's like this, that's just the dynamic. It's, you know, it repels, it's a repelling thing. And so that's one thing. But the other thing that keeps popping into my mind as you're describing these examples is that by stating things as they are, or by like voicing yourself, I feel like it gets you closer to reality. It aligns you more with reality. What's that? It's triggering something in your mind, I can see, huh?
No, I was just waiting for you to say, you know, because I know that your God is your reality. And I was like, he's going to say it soon.
Well, it's
waiting for him.
It's a, I've been playing around with these thoughts lately. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because everybody wants to get closer to God, right? And so how do you get closer to God? Especially if you're like me, you're an atheist, you don't believe in God. You can, is that news to you?
Yeah. I'm so happy that I'm friends with you. This is so cool.
Oh. And nothing against people who believe in God. It's I used to kind of have a bit of like a resentment, and I don't anymore. Or what do you call it? Antagonism or whatever? Not really resentment. Funny enough, I had a dream last night that I was debating with my cousin on religion, and he was trying to tell me that all religions are the same, and I got so involved in the debate, and it was just hilarious that this was taking place in my dreams, in the dream world.
That's so funny.
Anyways, so you know, how do we get closer to God? How do we get closer? You know, we get closer to God through prayer, right? With prayer, you communicate with God, that traditionally, right? So then what would be the form of prayer, right? If God is reality, how do you communicate with reality? The way you communicate with reality is that you get out of your head, and instead of telling yourself stories about, oh, I really want this, or I doubt that I'm going to get this, I don't think I'm going to achieve my goal, or, you know, all these stories that we tell ourselves, fears, expectations, right? That's the land of non-reality. That gets us farther away from God. But if we actually go out and try something, right? Well, let's say, well, let's go out and try it. Let's see what happens, right? Let me let go of this person and see if they come back. Now we're in direct communication with reality, because something's going to happen when we do that. Reality will decide what happens. That person either will go away and not come back, or they will come back. And so we're kind of letting go. And when people say let go and like let God decide, or like give it up to like God's will or whatever, I let go and I let reality decide. I let reality come back. I let reality respond to me. You know, I wrote something on Instagram a couple days ago or weeks ago about, you know, when you have a thought and you don't share it, reality cannot give you feedback on that thought. Go ahead. What are you going to say about
I'm
that?
such a big believer in that. Like, I hate those fucking posts when people are like, keep your goals private. Keep my goals private, bitch. How am I going to keep my goals private if I don't tell nobody, if I don't tell the reality, if I don't tell universe, if I don't tell God? Like, how am I going to get it? Shit. Keep your goals private. No thanks.
I know which posts you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like
they're so popular too.
The type of posts. Yeah, I think that, I mean, the reason I think what inspired those posts is that if you doubt stuff, like if you start to tell people about your goals and you have doubt about it, you're going to kind of self-sabotage. But the problem there is not the fact that you told somebody your goals. The problem there is the excess potential of attributing too much importance to it and allowing your mind to go into that world of doubt and like, well, I don't really think that I deserve this, or I don't know if I can get this, or inflating the importance of it. And that's the excess potential. And that's also the realm of non-reality, because you're not going out and trying it. Well, why don't you go out and try some things, right? It happens. I'm reading a lot of marketing books these days to catch up on my business knowledge. And it's fascinating how misunderstood or how much I misunderstood marketing. I always thought about it as like, oh, it's just this, you know, stupid thing where people just try to trick you into buying stuff or whatever. Like, that's not what marketing is, right? Marketing, there's actually a big science to it. Like, you can have two advertisements and then you do what's called A/B testing, where you use both versions and you put it out on, you know, you make a Facebook ad, but you have two versions, and one maybe has a red background and one has a blue background. And you count these millions and millions of views and you see one of them has a click-through rate that's higher than the other. And so that you go with that background instead of the other one. And I realized that the best marketers are so open to feedback from reality. They're so close to reality because they shift. They're not held to, they're not sitting in a room being like, all right, I really feel like this color is the best color, and this is the color I'm going to put in my advertisement. Like, no, what you think is going to happen has nothing to do with it. It's you go out and you do an experiment like a scientist. You put both versions out there. You see one of them has a 20% click-through rate. One of them has a 10%. All right. And then you ditch this one and you start tweaking this one to see if you can even improve that more. And to me, that's the good definition of being humble, right? We want to be humble in one sense only, and that's being humble to reality, because reality is always more powerful than us. It's always going to be more powerful than us. But I think it's the only thing that we should consider as more powerful than us is reality. The only thing I will bow down to is reality. And that's because constantly I will do things. Reality will give me feedback and tell me if it works or if it doesn't work. Looking at the time, that's actually my final thoughts of the day. So I pass it to you. It was a bit of a rant almost there, but go ahead.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Did you see me breathing? It was a lot of info. So that's awesome. I'm glad that was all said just now. Okay, so I guess for final thoughts, I guess my final thoughts are just let it go. Maybe try telling your friend that they've been an arrogant son of a prick lately and see how they react. I just feel like, yeah, man, just let it all go. Just let it all go. Have fun with reality. Definitely be honest with yourself, because I had to be super honest with myself the other night, and it was some of the most, oh my God, I literally like found out I was a piece of shit. Like, it's in my eyes, I just don't think that I was being the best human at all. And it was so hard for me to see, right? But I just let it go. I was like, listen, God is telling me to fucking do this shit. He's telling me to go inside of myself or nothing is going to work. I have to face reality and go inside of myself. So I finally did, and I let it go. And I just said, you know, if I fall into the pits of hell after I get this shit out, then I fall into the pits of hell. But if I come out good, then I come out good. And I came out better than good. I came out amazing. And it feels so freeing to face reality and just let the illusion go. And if the illusion that I guess you were holding on so tightly to, maybe goals or dreams, you finally let it go, then, you know, maybe one day it's just going to come back. And you'll be so in place with reality that you'll be so aware of what it is when it comes up to you that it's just the best. So yeah, if you love something very, very, very much, let it go. Just let it the fuck go. Don't let it go with hatred. Let it go with love. Because chances are it's going to come right back to you like a fucking slingshot, like a fucking boomerang. That's what I meant. So yeah, thanks for listening.
And good point there with the, let it go, not with hatred, but with love, because we're talking about letting go, not pushing away, letting go with hatred is, kind of like pushing away.
You know, this is a good episode that tied in very well to many topics, the energy expenditure, the excess potential, letting go with love, just being honest, facing reality, and realizing that reality isn't as bad as everybody says it is. It's actually pretty fucking cool, and it's a pretty good teacher, and it makes you feel really good inside, even when you admit that you're a piece of shit, because it makes you feel alive. It breathes life into you to admit honesty to yourself. And it's like, okay, I'm a piece of shit. At least I feel alive. I'd rather feel alive than feel dead inside. So it's, I think today was an awesome episode.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys learned something today, then make sure you show your love with a like and subscribe, and also share it with your friends so we can keep doing this very valuable podcast. All right, we'll see you all next week in episode 52. Thanks for watching.